Hello students of class 10. We have already done unit 1 and unit 2 of our Runaway Kite. In unit 2 we have seen that Claude and Philippa is the narrator. Now they had learned how to make kites. Okay, how to make kites from a boy in mainland. That is, Claude had learned this, how to make kites from a boy in mainland. So they made plenty of kites, and one day they took a kite, covered it with red paper, decorated it with gold tinsel stars, wrote their full name and address on it. But while this kite was being brought, this narrator tripped and fell over the rocks. Now what did they do? And as a result there was a hole. So there was a hole, and how did they mend the hole? They didn't have any more red paper. No more red paper was there, so they mended the hole with a letter, with an old letter, patched it with an old letter that was lying in the bookcase of the shelf. Okay. And then they dried it, they pasted it on both sides, and they dried it, and they took it, and the kite went high up, and all of a sudden it snapped, and the kite flew away to the mainland. So this is what we have learned in unit 2. In unit 3, a month later, a letter came for father. So there was a letter for Claude and Philippa's father. After he finished reading it, his eyes looked as if he had been crying. "Do you want to know what became of your kite?" he said. Then he sat down beside us and told us the whole story. So in unit 2 we have seen that the kite flew away to the mainland, and then a month had passed, and then their father received a letter, and after their father read the letter, it seemed, when they looked at his face, it seemed as though he was crying, and they were a bit surprised. But then their father said that, don't you want to know that what happened to your kite? Remember, you flew a kite, and that snapped and went away to the mainland. So then the father told them what happened to the kite, and also he narrated how he got separated from his family in the past. Father had a brother and sister. So it was not that they don't have any relatives. It was that father lived with her brother and sister. That is the father of Claude and Philippa. Okay, he lived with a brother and sister. He had quarreled, that is, his father had quarreled with his brother and left home. Years afterward, he felt sorry, and when he went back, he found his brother had died and he couldn't find his sister. So the story is that, what the father said was that the father, that is the narrator's father, that is Claude and Philippa's father, he had a brother and a sister. Okay, the narrator's father. Now, what happened? This narrator's father quarreled with his brother, and after quarreling with his brother, he left home. But then, after many years, he felt very sorry. Means he realized his mistake, and then he came back. Okay. He left home, and then again he came back. But when he came back, he found that this brother was already dead, and he could not find his sister. So this is what happened, and now we can understand, why, whenever they're asked about their relatives, why their father used to say that it is all my fault. That is, the father had quarreled and left the house, and then when he felt years later, when he realized his mistake, when he came back, he did not find anybody. The brother was dead and he could not find his sister. Now, after this, we see that what happened to the kite. The letter father had just received was from his sister, Aunt Esther. So the sister whom the father, means the narrator's father, could not find, actually the letter that the father was reading was actually from Aunt Esther, the mother of Dick and Mimi. She was a widow who lived 100 miles inland. One day when Dick and Mimi were out in the woods, that is, they had gone to a forest, they discovered the kite on top of a tree and carried it home. So they had just gone inside the woods and they found the kite inside the kite on top of the tree. So they took it down. When their mother saw the kite patched with the letter, she turned pale. It was the very letter she had once written to her brother. So she realized that it was the letter that this sister had written to the narrator's father. So seeing that letter, Aunt Esther, felt very sad. Philippa was her mother's name and Claude was her father's. She knew who we must be. That is, this Claude, who was this Claude and Philippa, she could easily understand that, because Claude and Philippa was the name of her mother and father. That is, they have been, this narrator and her brother they have been named after their grandparents. Next day, she knew who we must be. So she sat down and wrote to the big half moon, and father received the letter. So when she saw that address, big half moon, she immediately wrote a letter to her brother. Next day, father went and brought Aunt Esther and Dick and Mimi with him. They have been here ever since. Aunt Esther is a dear, and Dick and Mimi are jolly for words. So what the narrator means is that they are having a lovely time with their aunt and cousins. Okay, so they are happier now that they have relatives. But the best of all is that we now but the best of it all is that we have relations. So now they have relatives. That is the best part of it. So with this we come to the end of unit 3. Like unit 1 and 2, here also I have given some questions. Okay. The first question is, how was the narrator separated from his family? So you will write that the narrator lived, how was the narrator's father separated from his family? The narrator's father lived with his brother and sister. But one day the narrator's father quarreled with his brother and left home. When years later he felt sad, he came back, but by then the brother had died, his brother had died, and he could not find his sister. So in this way he got separated from his family. Why did Aunt Esther turn pale on reading the letter? Aunt Esther read the letter and she realized that it was a letter that she had once written to her brother, that is the narrator's father. And also she realized from the name written on the kite that who Claude and Philippa were. Okay, so reading means seeing all this, she turned pale. What did the narrator's father do after receiving the letter from Aunt Esther? So what did the narrator do is, narrator's father, the very next day he went to the mainland and brought back Aunt Esther, Dick and Mimi along with him, and from that time they all lived together in Big Half Moon. So this is what, and then you have a cause and effect, which you will once again do it on your own. Okay, cause and effect you have already done for other chapters. This I think in your book also in unit 2 you have one. So in the similar pattern I have done one. So that you will do it on your own. So with this we come to the end of the revision of the chapter Our Runaway Kite. Hope you have understood. Thank you, students.